Friends, humans, Disney fans, lend me your ears. Today we're going to be talking all about some of the common mistakes that folks make when they go to Walt Disney World for the first time. They're mistakes that I made the first time I went to Walt Disney World with my family. So today you're going to be learning from my mistakes. Let's chat. Hey everybody, it's Melanie here, and first things first, we gotta give a shout out to Meg. Lent me these awesome, beautiful butterfly flowy ears. And Meg had a great point about Disney World that I want to share with all of you. She loves the nostalgia of the parks, Magic Kingdom in particular. She said that she remembers going to Magic Kingdom when she was in first grade and getting a pretty little parasol with her name on it. And she said when she was grown and took her own family to Disney World for the first time, there was that same exact parasol stand. And that just really meant a lot to her that she saw it there again with her family. It was a memory for her. So thank you, Meg, for lending your ears. All right, guys, we all have to start somewhere, right? And even I, myself, who has been to Walt Disney World several times, had to start somewhere, right? I did, in fact, have a very first experience at Walt Disney World. And guess what? It was not, quote unquote, perfect due to the fact that maybe I didn't research or plan certain things that I should have going into it. And today I want to share those things with you so that if you are planning your very first trip to Walt Disney World with your family, you won't make the same mistakes that I did. Now, first of all, you may be wondering, well, when was your first trip as a family to Walt Disney World? My first family trip to Walt Disney World, where I was the grown-up having to make the plans, would have been April of 2013. And I personally was about out to here with child at the time. I was about 30 weeks pregnant, and I would like to say that that was not a mistake. You should stay active when you're pregnant, and it was a really great time there with my two older kiddos. And I can kind of say that that was my youngest kiddo's first time to Disney World too. Even though we had an amazing time as a family at Walt Disney World, looking back, there are some things that I would have changed about that very first trip and how I planned moving forward into that vacation. And I wanted to share with you today 5 things that you might not even think about when you're planning your very first Walt Disney vacation, because I didn't think about it. The first thing that I want to mention is to make sure that you are not packing every single minute of every single day with activities. Make sure that you give yourself a little bit of downtime. The very first time we went as a family to Walt Disney World, we were there 4 days and we did a park each day, and I think we did like open to close each day. And I will tell you that this was not necessarily a restful vacation. We had a ton of fun, but I wish I had considered to, build in a couple extra days or even a couple extra hours to just have some downtime and to rest, because there is so much to do and you want to make sure that you're not grouchy and tired as you're doing it. Next thing I want to mention is that you need to have good communication with your fellow travelers, even if you're just going as a family unit or if you have other people traveling along with you. It's really good to be on the same page of expectations, of the pace that you want to keep going through the parks. You need to make sure that everyone is happy and everyone is at peace. Guys, the very first time we went to Walt Disney World, we went with my parents, and I think we definitely wore them out. I think there was a time every single day where they're like, Can we just sit down for a moment? And what are we doing next? We need to just let's chill a second here. And then the first time we actually went to Disneyland, we went with some friends who live out in Southern California. Young married couple, no kids at the time. And the second day we were there, we snapped a picture of them just absolutely I think they fell asleep on a picnic table over by the cones at Carsland and Radiator Springs. So we definitely wore them out, and we weren't even really trying to. It's something I have to keep in mind that not everyone is as high energy and go, go, go as I am. So if you are like me, keep other people in mind when pacing yourself through the parks. Okay, guys, the next thing I want to talk about is FOMO. What is FOMO, you might be wondering? Well, FOMO is, of course, the fear of missing out. This is something that I experienced big time my first trip to Walt Disney World. I felt like we had to do every single thing in every single park, or else I'm gonna miss out on an experience. I just had this kind of stressful feeling in the bottom of my stomach, the pit of my stomach, I have to do all of this now because what if we don't ever come back? So that brings me to another point, that it's going to be very important for you to know going into your first trip to Walt Disney World, if you're going to be a Disney family that visits again and again and again. That will alleviate a lot of that FOMO if you know going into it that you're going to be going back. And if you are not going to be a Disney family, if this is going to be a one and done experience for you, please make sure that you prioritize research all the things that are available at the park, and make sure that you are prioritizing the things that you really want to do, see, and eat at Walt Disney World. I mean, guys, I remember our entire day at Epcot. I had my app open and where all the different characters were, and I had every member of our family split up. You're gonna go over there and get in line for Snow White, and you're gonna go over there and get in line for Sleeping Beauty. You're on Belle. Go get in line for Belle. And then I would just like shuffle the kids around to each person in line. I actually learned later that that's kind of against the rules. Like, the person who was in line needs to be in line and not just a space saver. But I was kind of out of control crazy about making sure we got a picture with every single person in the park. And I remember my husband being like,
"You need to take a chill pill. This is unnecessary. There are other things to do other than getting these pictures with all the characters."
and I was like,
Okay. We're gonna do some other things besides character pictures, though.
just make sure that you are not falling into that fear of missing out. All right, so the last couple things that I want to talk about, you might think would be self-explanatory, but this gal didn't really think this through the first time she went to Walt Disney World, and I know there have to be others out there like me, so I wanted to share them with you. First of all, like I mentioned before, research, and then add a side of research onto that. You need to do your homework when you are going to Walt Disney World, because let me tell you, it is not like your local zoo where you're gonna walk up, grab a map, and just kind of follow it around and see and do the things. It is more complex than that, and you want to know what's going on going into your vacation. But what should you research? Well, let me tell you. The next thing I want to talk about is research the restaurants. Guys, I had this frame of mind going into Walt Disney World that it's the most magical place on earth. The food is all going to be awesome. It's the state-of-the-art theme park. Everything's just going to be perfect, and I don't need to worry about this. That's not so true. Now, I did go so far as to go on Disney's website and see what restaurants they offered at the parks, and we even had dining reservations at the time. But what I didn't do is look at outside sources to get reviews on those particular restaurants, because I just assumed that they would be good. Because of this, we actually stumbled onto some downers, some places that are actually kind of well known for not being the best places to eat at Walt Disney World. So make sure that you go on different YouTube channels, that you go on different websites, bloggers that post about some of the best restaurants in the park. One of my favorites personally is Disney Food Blog. She has a blog and she has an awesome YouTube channel. You could sit for hours and hear all about the fantastic food that is offered at Walt Disney World. Another thing to keep in mind as you're doing this research about the restaurants is that there are quick service restaurants where you just kind of walk up to a window, order your food, and they hand it to you. There's also table service restaurants, so make sure that you're looking at both of those different kinds of restaurants when you do your research. And I promise you, there is a lot of great food at Walt Disney World, but there's some that kind of miss the mark too, so just make sure you're going to the right places for your family. All right, guys, and the other big thing that you need to research is just the attractions at the parks themselves. I really do think that I went into our vacation that year in 2013 just thinking we'll just show up and get a map and go around and do the things, but it is really more complex than that, and let me explain. Now, back in 2013, that honestly wasn't that terrible of an approach to going to the parks, because the Fast Pass system was completely different than it is today. They used to have these kiosks where you would just go up during the day at the park and get the Fast Passes that were available. But now with Disney's system where you can pre-book your Fast Passes, this is something that you need to look into ahead of time. And don't forget, it's 60 days ahead of time if you're staying on resort, and it's 30 days ahead of time if you are staying off resort for those Fast Passes. Be sure that you acquaint yourself before you go to the parks with the map and the layout of each different park, that you kind of figure out your game plan of which attractions you're going to hit and when. It sounds very overwhelming, but I promise you that if you have a plan in place, it's going to alleviate a lot of that stress going into the parks, because you'll know that, hey, I'm having dinner over here at this part of the park, so we should have our fast pass for this attraction right next to that restaurant around the same time. It sounds like a lot, guys, but I'm telling you, planning Walt Disney World vacations are super duper fun, so you won't regret planning everything ahead of time. And if you're not a planner, go with one of those Disney travel agents. They are impeccable. They know what they're doing. They know their stuff. They will get you everything you need. So either way, just make sure that you have research going into your trip, whether it's you or your travel agent, so that you can manage those expectations and have a magical time at Walt Disney World. So that's it for today, guys. Those are the mistakes that this lady made the first time she went to Walt Disney World, and I don't want you to make the same mistakes either. And please, guys, lend me your ears. That's right, we want to borrow your ears so that we can feature them on our next episode. You get a shout out, and then we send those ears right back to you. So if you are interested in lending me your ears, go ahead and leave a comment down below, and we'll get you all the necessary information. As always, don't forget to click that subscribe button and the bell directly next to it so that you receive up-to-the-minute notifications of when we here at Lend Me Your Ears drop a fresh video. I am Melanie from Lend Me Your Ears, and we'll see you again soon.